Three things I like about the AEE Lyfe silver action camera. Wow. So this is one of my favorite cameras because, first of all, even though there were minimal accessories, the camera itself, it has this glass over it. So the first thing I like is that this is really dust proof. I think more cameras should do this, where instead of you have this kind of curvature here, there's just a piece of glass over it. So this is not, oh, wow, it's so much glass that it's reflecting and it cannot focus. Instead of being kind of a lens right here, there's glass over it. So if there's dust, if I just put it on the ground like that, it's actually not going to get, I mean, it's going to get dusty, but you can just wipe the dust off. Look at this. Whoop, wipe the dust off. There it is. There's glass. Dust proof is amazing because you can just put the camera down on the ground and not worry about it. That's one of the advantages of these cheap action cameras. Advantages of cheap action cameras over the camera I'm using to film this. Even though this has great audio quality, nothing is better than these little cameras when it comes to just being rugged and dust proof and surviving the elements. So that's the first thing. It has glass over it, over the lens. So this isn't even the underwater housing. This is the underwater housing. This isn't making it waterproof. This is making it waterproof. But even without the underwater housing, you are good to go without good audio and dust proof. You'll see that if you want to see the clip, next part of this video, you want to see what it looks like, sample footage. So what's the other thing I like about this camera? Even though there's some really good settings, it'll say like 4K or something. Does it say 4K? Oh, look, it says 4K. Wow, all this marketing thing. 4K, 10 frames per second. Where does it say? See? 10K. Not 10K. 4K. Sorry. 4K, 10 frames per second. That's really a marketing thing. 10 frames per second. Yeah, that looks just like you would imagine it, very choppy. 10 frames per second, 10 frames per second, 10 frames per second. Yeah, I don't use it. I use 1080p 60 frames per second, and wow, it does that fantastic. You'll see in the next part of this video if you want to see clip record with this camera. Really, I don't know if they still sell it on Amazon, but wow, even for less than $50, I got a huge discount, $30 plus tax and shipping. But even for $45, I think the price is right now, still really just fantastic quality here in my opinion for a cheap, less than $50 device. Given that it's dust proof, really nice thing to take on vacation. The third thing that I like, so what's the third thing? So the first thing is that it is really dust proof. The second thing is that it records great 1080p quality. I'm honestly not sure if there's a third thing that I like about this camera. So I guess I'll just say the third thing is that it came with a really cool accessory. I don't have it here, but it's sort of like a little shell that goes around and with a little thing here. So if you have a little strap, you can have a strap around that little accessory, and then you can just carry it around. I put it around my neck sometimes. So that was cool. I mean, very minimal accessories, but the accessory it did come with was sort of a case, sort of a shell that wraps around the camera, and you can attach it to a strap, and just I put it around my neck just to it's easier to film that way. Despite the fact that there were just minimal accessories here, that was the one accessory that I ended up sort of using. Of course, there is actually an image stabilization feature, which I didn't really mention, even though you'll see it when you go to the menu. I don't really know how to use it, and I think I tried to turn it on. I wasn't sure if it actually worked or not, but there is apparently an image stabilization feature. I'm not sure how to use it, whether I have to change the viewing angle to medium. So okay, I guess that's the third thing I'll say that I like. Yeah, so we do have that accessory, that shell that wraps around the case, and then you can attach a strap to it and carry it around your neck. I guess a bonus I'll say is that it does have the option to remove the fisheye effect. Some of the cameras will call it adding distortion correction, but the fisheye effect is when you it tries to capture everything in such a wide angle that when you move the camera up and down, or you move something in front of it, there's distortion. I don't know how else to explain it. You'll see that on some cheap action cameras, you just won't be able to remove that. With this one you can. You change the viewing angle from ultra wide or wide angle to just kind of medium, so there is no fisheye effect. And that's what I prefer, like this camera, there's no fisheye effect here. But with the cheaper action cameras, they really try to capture a wide angle. Why that is always there, the wide angle, I'm not really sure. So I'll leave that as the three things I like. Good quality video, really dust proof, and the third thing is the option to remove the fisheye effect. But overall, I just really like the appearance of this. One thing I'll say I dislike is the touchscreen. I know it sounds cool, but I'd rather have the buttons than a touchscreen, like the up and down button here. Sorry. Sort of just kind of lacking the buttons here. We have one here, a dedicated camera button, which is very interesting. This camera takes okay photos, but no, not the best. Anyways, please feel free to skip the next part of the video if you want to see a 1080p 60 frames per second video test. Really my favorite setting to see how good this camera is. I think it's very good for the money, but everyone has their own opinions. This is my own opinion. Feel free to disagree if you want, or just watch someone else's video if you're just shopping around looking for this camera. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.
Hello, this is a 1080p 60 frames per second video test with the AEE Lyfe Silver action camera, which we purchased on Amazon previously for around $30, and that was really a nice discount because the price is now, I think, around $45, I think. So definitely discounted that we got this camera at 1080p 60 frames per second. This is the AEE Lyfe Silver action camera with a touch screen, which I don't really like touch screens on action cameras. I prefer the buttons. But this has to be my favorite camera because of, even though it does not, don't know how good the image stabilization is, apparently there is, I don't really know how good it is. It does have a glass covering that prevents the lens from getting dirty, which is really important. So you can easily put this in your pocket and not have to worry about any dust on the lens. You can just wipe it right off. I wish more cameras had that. Anyways, the other thing I like is that the 1080p 60 frames per second quality is actually really good in my opinion. I was not expecting it because I didn't know that I purchased the camera at such a deep discount for $30. But when I saw the quality of this video, I was very impressed, given the price that we paid for it. Of course, this is not the best camera, but value for money is important. So when we paid a little bit more than $30, I was very, very impressed with the quality here. Then again, this is a 1080p 60 frames per second video test with the AEE Lyfe Silver action camera. Seems to capture the details pretty well, and the ability to turn off the fisheye effect by changing the angle from like wide angle to medium angle. So that's what I did here. That will allow you to try out the fisheye effect. If you don't know, that's when there's some kind of distortion when it goes for a really wide angle. So we can do that here. We can turn it off. We've got the medium angle, so that is why we do not have the fisheye effect. 1080p 60 frames per second with the AEE Lyfe Silver action camera. Very happy with this camera, even though I don't know how to turn on the image stabilization. There's also a 4K feature, but at 10 frames per second, I cannot imagine that that would be very useful for me personally. There's also a 1440p 30 frames per second, which I thought was interesting because I've never seen that on any other action cameras before. Time-lapse feature, there's probably, actually I don't know if there's a slow motion feature, I don't know, but there is a time-lapse feature. What I really use these cameras for, I don't use them for slow motion though, I use them for filming pictures. Pictures are actually very good on this camera, but I don't really use this as a primary camera. What I do use this for is recording 1080p 60 frames per second if that feature is available on this camera. It is, as you can see. This is a rather long video test, but I just want to show you what kind of quality you can expect from a less than $50 camera. This is the AEE Lyfe Silver action camera. Not sure how well you can hear me right now. The camera came with minimal accessories, but included a case, a kind of a shell case for carrying the camera and attaching it to a strap, if you have a strap. Very minimal accessories. Did not come with a micro SD memory card, so obviously more often than not you have to buy that yourself, memory card. Again, 1080p 60 frames per second. Just wanted to show you what the video quality looks like on a less than $50 camera, in this case the AEE Lyfe Silver action camera. Very happy with this camera, very portable. Screen is a little bit small, but as I said, it has a glass covering over the lens, so you do not have to worry about dust getting in the lens. Of course, if you want the camera to be waterproof, which is a whole different story, you will have to use the underwater housing, which is included with this action camera. Again, I'll just say one more time, I don't really like the touch screen. I wish it had regular buttons instead, but it has a few buttons. 1080p 60 frames per second.